Well played, Juanita. For those of you looking this way, you didn't see it, but the slide was too small for Julia to see, and Juanita knows the technology well enough. Now she just went, here you go. Breathed it bigger, made it back. Let's take a breath together. So our global theme for Centers for Spiritual Living for 2023 is living out loud. What a concept. What a concept. And typically in a lot of centers, the January is a time to go over the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind. The thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. And we're going to loosely do that with different titles. So this morning's title is God is a Concept. And one of the most exciting things that I learned in ministerial school during Metaphysical Bible from the Reverend Dr. Deborah L. Johnson, our instructor, was I grew up, first of all, thinking Genesis was the oldest book of the Bible. It's not. It's just the one they put first. And Genesis starts off with an incredibly interesting mistranslation of the Hebrew. Because what we read in the King James Version is, in the beginning God created. That is not what the original text said. The original text actually said, in the beginning created God. Slightly different, I'm just saying. Which really, as a kid who was raised in fundamental Christianity, it opened a whole world for me, because my whole life I'd been questioning, who created God? Right? Who created God? Because the God I grew up with had a personality. He had a gender, right? I don't experience that as an infinite being. I experience that as a quite limited, somewhat expanded version of a white man. Quite honestly. And so I'm like, there has to be more. So I looked up concept, and I had to chuckle. Because one of the root definition of concept, to conceive, quite literally means a thought, which kind of perfectly aligns with Science of Mind, right? We teach because hopefully you've experimented with it enough to demonstrate it in your own life, that this one invisible substance, energy, consciousness, has a lot of different labels, right? But it comes into manifestation by thought. And when I think about in the beginning created God, I imagine this truly infinite, indescribable, indefinable beingness, what Ernest Holmes called the thing itself, imagining itself as the concept of God. Because that's what it does. It just creates. It has ideas, it has thoughts. The activity of itself, which we call law, acts upon that and makes it so. It really gets pretty simple when we break it down. But then this thing happened where we, in this human realm, continuously personified this concept of God. Right? We added human traits to it that it quite likely doesn't possess, except in our own thinking. But as we think, we make it so in our experience. And so for us, if I believe that God is an elderly white man who has residence in a cloud that occasionally goes off his meds and punishes himself as his creation, well, then that is the God I will experience. Versus if I have the idea of an unlimited being that has no form, that simply gives of itself to itself without restriction, without qualification, and embodies its creation with all that it is, which means it has now the same power that the source has. Well, now I'm dancing with a whole different concept of God. I'm dancing with a concept of God that is empowering, that there's no punishment, there's no guilt and shame. Here I am as you, do with me as you please, as you weave your way back home. The story of the prodigal son is a perfect example of that, because while it's talking about this earthly realm, it's talking about a father, a child, that goes off, and his whole journey is a journey of learning what doesn't work, that brings him full circle right back home. And so our journey with the infinite, at least mine, has pretty much mirrored that, I constantly create because I don't have an off switch, and newsflash, neither do you. We each are constant creation. Right? I mean, if we really wrapped our head around every thought, every belief we hold, whether we're aware of it or not, is creating all the time. When I first realized that, it scared the bejabbers out of me. I wish I could tell you what a bejabber is, but I don't know. But I know it scared them out of me. Because now all of a sudden it's like, what's going on in there that I don't even know about? And what is it doing? Because that's the thing. Law, right? If you take this to, let's put it in secular terms, right? Because sometimes I need practical stuff to get this. And so sometimes I imagine this whole process as thought being research and development, right? All the idea machines. We sit around, we talk, ideas get sparked, and a work order goes into law, right? That middle section, which is the, in industry, what is that called? The fulfillment center, right? So research and development sends a work order to the fulfillment zone, where all of the parts already exist, where it doesn't even need a blueprint. It just knows, oh, that's what you want, okay. And it all gets put together, and voila, it goes to the spiritual Amazon drone to be delivered. Because that's how creation works. Thought is acted upon by law, and it's made manifest. Here is a key that I want you to make sure that you keep reminding yourself over and over again. The word manifest means to reveal. To reveal. And so everything that is manifest in your life takes you full circle to a revelation of what is in your consciousness. Right? So if things are showing up, if things are being manifest in your life that you dislike, what are you believing? What are you thinking? And not from a, well, what's in your consciousness? No, from a, what is operating in my consciousness? Right? Because we can guilt and shame ourselves into avoiding looking, or we can understand that we have the power to shift that. Now, the thing itself, notice it says the thing itself, not the things. There's one thing. There's one mind. Which means when you observe something that you dislike, and that nice little caveat that we've created where we question the thought for a minute, but then we go, well, I didn't think that. And we gotta step ourselves out of that process. Ain't a word of truth in it. Ain't a word of truth in it. There's no such thing as your thought and my thought. There's no such thing as your mind and my mind. There's one mind. We're all operating in it, from it, as it. And so that's the beauty. If I experience something, instead of saying, who thought that? I didn't think that. We are each empowered to settle into what thought is being revealed by that, and what thought in principle will transform it. That's what's available to every one of us. That's how thinking changes everything. See, if we were really dualistic, if we were really separate, I think it would be a pretty hopeless environment, because it would truly depend on each individual changing their thought for anything to change. It doesn't. It doesn't. A thought changed one place as a thought changed every place, because we're not bound by time and space. And how cool is that? We can't. To be effective, we can't allow ourselves to get lost in the time frame of when the shift happens. That's none of our business. That's the activity of the Fulfillment Center. Our job is research and development. Right? Our job is to be really clear, what work order are we sending to the Fulfillment Center? Because once the Fulfillment Center, once law has that work order, it just acts upon it. It doesn't look at it. There's no screening team that takes a look at your work order and says, yeah, I'm pretty sure Rafe doesn't really want this. Could you give him a call and ask about these things on this work order? It's not how it works. It just says, got it, here you go. So it's up to us to be diligent in our research and development of our ideas. That's why we study. That's why we pray. That's why we have spiritual practice. That's our research and development. Question everything. Question everything. This whole idea of certainty, that's a slippery, slippery slope. Because how in the world, in this human iteration, are we ever, and I do mean ever, going to be 100% certain about our perception of an infinite being? I'm operating with a finite brain. How about you? I'm talking about it with finite language. How about you? We're never going to be 100% certain in this conditioned realm. So what? It doesn't mean we don't keep looking. It means we keep looking. We keep digging. Another example I'll use, imagine that this earth journey is just one big archaeological dig, right? And the you that you're looking for is right there all the time. And the way that you find it is just like an archaeological dig. They take off a layer. And they do it gently. If you've ever watched a documentary, they're not in there with backhoes and bulldozers. They're in there with literally spoons and brushes, gently removing what doesn't belong. What if you treated yourself like an archaeological dig? Park your bulldozer, put your jackhammer away, and gently remove what isn't you to reveal what is. That's what we get to do. We get to. You don't have to, but you get to. And so this morning, we're going to do that for Sierra Center. We're going to vision very briefly. And then if folks are interested, we'll continue to vision. We'll put together a visioning team because everything changes. Everything changes. And a huge change got set in motion on March 20th, 2020. and it's still, we see parts of it, but I got a feeling it's one of those work orders that law received that has a lot of different parts. It's like an IKEA work order. And we're gradually, here's a bag of bolts, here's a bag of sticks, now we'll give you the instructions later on how to put all that together. It's kind of what it's felt like. So I don't know where it's all going. And the beauty is, I don't have to know. But what I do know is that we are each infinite intelligence in form. And as Reverend Julia said this morning, everything we're looking for, we already are. How cool was that? She just gave me that to work with. Everything Sierra Center is looking for, it already is. And we are infinite intelligence in form, so we already know what it is. And the trick is getting our human stuff out of the way far enough, excavating deeply enough for us to begin to hear and see Spirit's idea of itself. I was having a couple of conversations earlier this week, and instead of asking, what do I want to do with my life? What if we ask, what does life want to do with me? Right? And so instead of asking, what does Sierra Center want to do with life? We're getting ready to ask life what it wants to do as Sierra Center. And so I'm going to invite you just to go within. And as you're settling in, if you need or want a piece of paper to make some notes on, let me know. We have them right here if anybody needs any. We also have, I've got a table of magazines up here that's off camera. They don't need to see that. You can't come get them anyway. And so after the visioning, we've got a couple of boards here. If you are called to clip anything and put it on the board or write something on the board or what have you, we will begin to create a vision board for Sierra Center that can be built upon. There you go. And we're just going to ask a couple of questions, and I invite you to really, as much as you humanly can, release any ideas that you've been walking around with and lean into the reality that creation doesn't necessarily speak the language that we're used to hearing. And so you might get an idea as a color. You might get an idea as a smell. You might get an idea that quite literally makes no sense to you. I invite you to go with it, Because when they all get put together, it's amazing how the puzzle begins to fit. And so let's go within. Letting everything in your brain just rest. And with this next breath, I invite you to become aware that you are infinite intelligence in form. That every answer already exists as you. And so we ask, what is Spirit's highest idea of itself as Sierra Center for Spiritual Living? And we look, listen, and feel with an open heart. I invite you to take a breath and go deeper. As we ask together, what needs to be released to reveal Spirit's highest idea of itself as Sierra Center? And we look, listen, and feel with an open heart. So breathe with me as we go even deeper. As we ask, what needs to be embodied to reveal life's highest vision of itself as Sierra Center? What needs to be embodied? And we look, listen, and feel with an open heart. And breathing deeper still. We open ourselves to know from infinite intelligence as us whatever else is ours to know, whatever else wants to be known, to reveal, to make manifest the divine's highest vision of itself as Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. We look, listen, and feel with an open heart. And so as we bring this to a close, I recognize that the infinite has been informing itself in each exquisitely individualized human expression of itself, of the desire of its heart to be, to unfold, to grow as Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. I recognize that just as quickly as the thoughts have been made known in our research and development departments, that they have been received in the law, in the fulfillment center, and have already been acted upon. That the manifestation of the divine's highest idea of itself as Sierra Center for Spiritual Living is already activated and known in creation. It's already accomplished and is being made manifest, is being revealed in its perfect time. And so I can celebrate. I can know that it is all perfect because it is the concept, the thought, the idea of the infinite itself being made known to itself through itself. So there's nothing more to do than to celebrate, to let go, and to simply marvel and be in awe of this thing, this concept, this infinite beingness manifesting itself anew, excavating everything that no longer belongs. We stand at the ready. We receive. We say yes to whatever is ours to do in this divine process of unfolding. And we choose consciously to trust that there can be no mistakes in perfection. So we let go. We let it be. And together we say, and so it is. I love me some visioning. So if you're with us online, please feel free, if you feel inclined, to put whatever came to you in the chat. If you would prefer, you're welcome to email it to us privately. You have a couple of options there. You can email it to office@sierracenter.org. Thank you. Which is Juanita's email address, or you can email it directly to me at revrafe@sierracenter.org. Or put it in the chat. If you're here in the room, as I said, there's magazines if you feel inclined to go play with those. There's boards. If not, you just want to share your notes, we'll take those in and we'll synthesize them all, and we'll let folks know what came out of the visioning process. We don't need to put names on whose idea, what came through who. So we'll synthesize all that and we'll begin to build upon that.